The last negotiation, the massive space station called Nexus Prime, floated in the void between star systems like a steel flower made of metal and glass. Ships from 100 different worlds docked at its countless ports, bringing trade goods and diplomats from across the galaxy. Today, it would host the most important meeting in human history. Captain Elena Vasquez walked through the station's main corridor. Her military dress uniform, crisp and clean despite the long journey from Earth. She was not tall or physically imposing, but something in her steady brown eyes and calm demeanor made even the largest alien step aside as she passed. Behind her walked two aide officers, their faces carefully neutral, as they observed the dozens of alien species around them. The corridor stretched for nearly a kilometer, its walls made of transparent aluminum that showed the stars beyond. Alien. Merchants haggled in languages that sounded like music, grinding stone, or electronic static. The air carried the scent of exotic spices and the metallic tang of recycled atmosphere. Elena had visited Nexus Prime many times over her 15-year career, but today felt different. Today, everything would change. They reached the central council chamber, a vast dome where the most powerful beings in the galaxy made decisions that affected trillions of lives. The chamber could hold 5,000 representatives, and today it was completely full. Floating platforms held delegates from the gas giant worlds, while crystalline beings from the silicon planets reflected light in rainbow patterns across. The walls. The insectoid hive collective clicked and buzzed in their designated section, while the energy beings called the luminous flickered like living stars. At the center of it all sat the High Council of the Stellar Dominion, the Alliance that controlled most of known space. High Chancellor Zephyros dominated the central platform, his 12-foot frame covered in scales that shifted from deep blue to angry red as his emotions changed. 6 arms ending in clawed hands rested on the arms of his throne, while his 4 eyes studied Elena with obvious contempt. Elena walked to the small platform reserved for Earth's representative. It sat alone, separated from the other delegates by empty space, a visible reminder of humanity's isolation in galactic politics. She stood calmly, hands clasped behind her back, and waited. Chancellor Zephyros rose to his full height, his voice booming through the chamber's acoustic systems. "Human representative," he began, making the word sound like an insult. "You stand before the assembled might of 800 civilizations. We have called this final gathering to offer your species one last chance to see reason." Elena said nothing. She had learned long ago that silence was often the most powerful response. Ambassador Crix of the Insectoid Collective stepped forward, his mandibles clicking rapidly as he spoke. "For 50 years, your species has refused to accept its proper place in the galactic order. You will not submit to Dominion authority. You will not allow our mining operations in your star system. You will not even permit our survey ships to map your outer planets." A murmur ran through the assembled delegates. Some species had joined the Dominion willingly, eager for the protection and trade opportunities it offered. Others had been conquered and absorbed. None had simply said no for 5 decades and survived. Chancellor Zephyros's scales shifted to a deeper red. "Your stubbornness has been tolerated because your species was considered harmless. A young race with primitive technology and limited expansion. But recent events have changed this assessment." Elena knew what he meant. 3 months ago, human colonies had been established in 2 star systems beyond Earth's original boundaries. The colonies were small, barely a few thousand people each, but they represented something the Dominion could not allow: independent expansion by a non-member species. "The time for tolerance is over," Zephyros continued. "The Stellar Dominion has voted. Your species will submit to our authority, or it will be eliminated as a threat to galactic stability." The chamber fell silent. Elena could hear her own heartbeat, could feel the weight of 800 civilizations staring down at her. She was one human woman facing the combined power of most of the galaxy. Any rational person would have been terrified. Instead, Elena stepped forward. "No," she said simply. The word carried clearly through the vast chamber. Several delegates gasped audibly. The energy beings flickered with what might have been surprise or anger. Ambassador Crix's mandibles stopped clicking entirely. "Perhaps you do not understand the situation, human. This is not a negotiation. This is not a request. You will submit, or you will be destroyed." Elena looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of as many delegates as she could. When she spoke, her voice was calm and clear. "I understand perfectly. You've decided that humanity is too dangerous to exist independently. You want us to become your servants, or you want us dead." "Precisely," Zephyros said, his satisfaction evident. "Your species has shown alarming tendencies toward unpredictable behavior. Your expansion must be controlled, your technology monitored, your population regulated. These are not unreasonable demands." "They are to us," Elena replied. A crystalline delegate rang like a bell as it spoke. "Your feelings are irrelevant. 800 species have joined the Dominion. Your single world cannot stand against such unity." Elena nodded slowly. "You're right. We can't match your numbers or your technology. We can't fight your fleets in open battle or defend our worlds with military might." She paused, and something in her expression made several delegates unconsciously lean back. "But you're making one crucial mistake." "What mistake could primitives like you possibly identify that we have missed?" Zephyros demanded. Elena smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. "You think this is about military power. You think this is about ships and weapons and territory. You think you're dealing with a normal species that will respond to threats the way everyone else does." She began walking in a slow circle, her voice carrying to every corner of the vast chamber. "For 50 years, you've watched us. You've studied our technology, our military capabilities, our expansion rate. You've calculated that we pose a minimal threat to your established order. You've analyzed us like we're just another species to be cataloged and controlled." Ambassador Crix's wings buzzed nervously. "Your point, human?" "My point is that you've been studying the wrong things," Elena said. "You've been looking at our ships and our weapons and our colonies. You haven't been studying us. You haven't been studying what happens when you back a human being into a corner with no way out." The chamber was completely silent now. Even the energy beings had stopped their constant flickering. Elena stopped walking and faced the High Council directly. "You want to know what makes humans different? It's not our technology or our military. It's what we do when someone tells. We have to choose between freedom and death." "Enlighten us," Zephyros said, but his voice had lost some of its confidence. "We choose to become something else entirely," Elena replied. "We choose to become something that doesn't have to make that choice. We choose to become something that makes the people who forced that choice regret they were ever born." A chill ran through the chamber. Several of the smaller delegates actually moved their platforms farther away from the human representative. Elena continued, her voice growing colder with each word. "You think you know what war is. You fight your civilized battles with your rules and your honor codes. You capture territory and count casualties and declare victory when the other side surrenders. You fight wars where both sides expect to survive and negotiate afterward." She looked directly at Chancellor Zephyros. "Humans don't fight wars like that. When you force us to choose between submission and extinction, we choose option 3. We choose to make sure that if we're going down, we're taking you with us. All of you. Every last one." The silence stretched for long moments. Finally, Ambassador Crix spoke, his voice much quieter than before. You speak of mass suicide, of mutual destruction. Surely you cannot believe your species would choose annihilation over reasonable accommodation. Elena laughed, and the sound sent shivers through beings who had never experienced fear. Reasonable accommodation? You want to regulate our population, monitor our technology, and control our expansion. You want to turn us into pets, and you call that reasonable? She shook her head. You really don't understand humans at all. We're not threatening mutual destruction. We're promising something much worse. What could be worse than the extinction of your species? Zephyros demanded. Elena's smile returned, colder than the void between stars. The extinction of yours. You see, when you threaten everything humans care about, when you give us nothing left to lose, we don't just fight to win. We fight to make sure the threat never, ever rises again. We fight to end it so completely that no one else will ever face what we faced. She began walking again, her footsteps echoing in the absolute silence. You think we're afraid of dying? We've been dying since we crawled out of the caves. Disease, disaster, war, famine, we've survived them all. Death doesn't scare us. What scares us is the thought that our children might live as slaves. Elena stopped in front of the High Council platform. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to send your fleets to human space. You're going to try to conquer us with your superior numbers and technology. And you're going to discover that humans don't fight the kind of war you're prepared for. What kind of war do humans fight? Ambassador Crix asked, though he seemed reluctant to hear the answer. The kind where the only acceptable outcome is the complete elimination of the threat, Elena replied. The kind where we don't stop when we've won. We stop when we've made sure you can never threaten anyone ever again. Chancellor Zephyros rose to his full height, his scales now deep crimson with rage. You dare threaten the stellar dominion? Your primitive species against 800 advanced civilizations? Elena looked up at him without flinching. I'm not threatening you. I'm warning you. There's a difference. A threat is something you might do. A warning is something you definitely will do if certain conditions are met. She turned to address the entire chamber. You have one chance to avoid what's coming. Leave us alone. Let us exist in peace. Let us grow and explore and build our own future without interference. Do that, and humans will be content to remain in our small corner of the galaxy. And if we refuse? Zephyros asked. Alana's expression became utterly cold. Then you'll discover what happens when you force a species with nothing left to lose to become something they never wanted to be. You'll learn why humans are the only species in galactic history that names their ships after disasters and their weapons after angels of death. She walked back to her platform. The choice is yours, Chancellor, but choose carefully. Because once this war begins, there won't be any negotiations. There won't be any surrenders. There won't be any peace treaties. There will only be an ending. And I promise you, it won't be the ending you expect. The chamber erupted in angry voices. Delegates shouted in dozens of languages, demanding action, calling for immediate military response. Through it all, Elena stood silently on her platform, watching the chaos with calm eyes. Chancellor Zephyros raised all 6 arms, and gradually the noise subsided. The human has made the position of her species clear, he announced. The Stellar Dominion will now vote on the appropriate response. The vote was swift and unanimous. 800 civilizations chose war. Elena nodded as if she had expected nothing else. Then it's decided? You want war? She looked around the chamber one final time. And brace for the end you chose. As she walked out of the chamber, Elena could hear the delegates already discussing fleet deployments and battle strategies. They were planning a quick, decisive campaign against a primitive species that couldn't possibly stand against their combined might. They had no idea what they had just unleashed. Asterisk, when humanity awakens. 6 months later, High Chancellor Zephyros stood in the command center of his flagship, the Dominion's Might, staring at reports that made no sense. The massive warship floated in what used to be the Kepler system, but the 3 human colonies that had been there were gone. Not destroyed, not abandoned, gone. As if they had never existed at all. "Report," he ordered Admiral Vex, his military commander. The 4-eyed cetacean admiral's skin had lost its normal blue-green color, fading to a sickly gray. "We arrived at the coordinates 3 days ago. Our sensors detected no life signs, no structures, no debris. The colonies we observed 6 months ago have vanished completely." Zephyros studied the tactical display showing the empty system. "What about the planets themselves?" "Untouched, sir. No signs of orbital bombardment or surface destruction. It's as if the humans simply left. But our intelligence reports indicated those colonies had no spacecraft capable of evacuating 50,000 people. Perhaps they were relocated before our arrival?" Admiral Vex consulted his datapad nervously. "Sir, we've attacked 17 human settlements in the past 6 months. The same thing happened at every location. We arrived to find empty space where colonies should be. No battles, no resistance, no trace of human presence." Zephyros felt a familiar chill. This was not how wars were supposed to begin. When the Dominion attacked a planet, they expected desperate defense, heroic last stands, and eventually surrender or destruction. They did not expect to find nothing at all. "What about Earth itself?" he asked. "We haven't approached the human home world yet, sir. Strategic Command wanted to eliminate the outer colonies first, then move on the primary target." "But, sir," Vex hesitated. "Speak freely, Admiral. We haven't eliminated anything. We haven't fought a single battle. We don't know where the humans are, or what they're planning. How do we fight an enemy we can't find?" Before Zephyros could answer, alarms began sounding throughout the ship. The bridge lighting shifted to combat configuration as his officers scrambled to their stations. "Report," Zephyros barked. Unknown contacts appearing throughout the fleet called his sensor operator. "Multiple signatures. Pattern analysis suggests." "Sir, they're inside our formation." Zephyros looked at the tactical display in disbelief. Dozens of red dots had appeared among the blue icons representing Dominion ships. But that was impossible. His fleet consisted of 300 warships spread across several light minutes of space. No force could penetrate that kind of formation without being detected. Size and configuration of hostile vessels? He demanded. That's the problem, sir. Sensors can't get a clear reading. The contacts appear to be shifting size and shape constantly. Mass readings are inconsistent. It's as if they're not entirely there. A new voice joined the communication channel, calm and familiar. "Hello, Chancellor." Zephyros's blood went cold. He knew that voice. "Elena Vasquez?" "I told you to brace for the end you chose," Elena's voice continued. "Did you think I was making empty threats? Where are you?" Zephyros demanded. "Show yourself." "I'm everywhere and nowhere," Elena replied. "We all are. You wanted to fight humans, Chancellor, but we're not human anymore. You made sure of that when you left us no choice but to become something else." The tactical display showed chaos as ships throughout the Dominion fleet began reporting problems. Not attacks, not weapons fire, but problems. Life support systems failing, navigation computers providing impossible readings, artificial gravity fluctuating wildly. "What have you done to my fleet?" Zephyros roared. "We're introducing you to human warfare," Elena answered. "You see, you were right about one thing. We couldn't fight you with conventional weapons. We couldn't match your ships or your technology. So we stopped trying." Admiral Vex looked up. From his command console, his skin now pale with fear. "Sir, we're receiving reports from throughout the fleet. Crew members are ... changing. Changing how? Unknown, sir. Medical teams report that affected personnel are still alive and functional, but their biology is different. They claim to feel fine, but their genetic patterns are unlike anything we've seen before. Elena's voice carried a hint of dark amusement. You studied us for 50 years, but you never understood the most important thing about humans. We adapt. When you put us in a situation where being human wasn't enough, we became something more. The lights on the bridge flickered, and for a moment, Zephyros could have sworn he saw figures moving in the shadows, figures that weren't quite solid, weren't quite real. We learned from every species you conquered, Elena continued. We studied your technology, your biology, your weaknesses. We took the best parts of everything and made them ours. The shapeshifters taught us how to exist in multiple forms. The void swimmers showed us how to move through space without ships. The hive minds gave us perfect coordination. Zephyros felt true fear for the first time in his long life. That's impossible. No species can incorporate traits from others. Biology doesn't work that way. Human biology doesn't work that way, Elena corrected. But we're not exactly human anymore, are we? You forced us to evolve beyond the limitations of a single species. You forced us to become something that could survive what you planned to do to us. Reports continued flooding in from across the fleet. Ships losing power, crews becoming unresponsive, entire vessels simply disappearing from sensors, only to reappear in different locations. The orderly battle formation was dissolving into chaos. You're using some kind of advanced technology, Zephyros said, though he didn't believe it himself. Cloaking devices, computer viruses, biological weapons. We're using something much simpler, Elena replied. We're using what you taught us. You showed us that in this galaxy, the strong prey on the weak. You showed us that mercy is a luxury only the powerful can afford. You showed us that sometimes, to protect what you love, you have to become something terrible. The main screen flickered and Alana's face appeared. But it wasn't the human woman who had stood before the Galactic Council. Her skin had a pearl-like sheen that seemed to shift and flow. Her eyes were deeper than space itself, holding intelligence. That felt alien and ancient. When she smiled, her teeth were too sharp, too white. Thank you for the lesson, Chancellor, she said. We learned it very well. Zephyros tried to speak, but found his voice failing him. Around the bridge, his crew. Members were changing. Their skin took on the same pearl-like quality as Elena's. Their eyes deepened and darkened. But they remained at their posts, still loyal, still functional, just different. You wanted to control human expansion, Elena continued. You wanted to regulate our population and monitor our technology. Instead, you've given us something much better. You've given us the galaxy. The tactical display showed the truth. The red contacts weren't ships at all. They were people. Humans who had somehow learned to exist in the vacuum of space, who could travel between stars without vessels, who could infiltrate any fleet and change it from within. Every world you control, we can reach, Elena said. Every species you've conquered, we can free. Every technology you've developed, we can adapt and improve. You created us, Chancellor. You made us into exactly what we needed to be to stop you. Admiral Vex, his transformation now complete, turned to Zephyros with eyes that held cosmic depths. Orders, sir? He asked, his voice unchanged, despite his altered appearance. Zephyros stared at his old friend and realized the horrible truth. The humans weren't destroying his forces. They were converting them. They were turning the Dominion's own strength against itself, one ship at a time, one crew member at a time. You can't do this, he whispered. You can't just change entire species. Elena's image leaned forward, and her alien eyes showed something that might have been pity. We can and we are. You see, Chancellor, you are right about humans. We are dangerous. We are unpredictable. We do pose a threat to galactic stability. She paused, and her smile grew wider. But you made one crucial error. You assumed those traits were weaknesses. You thought they made us vulnerable. Instead, they're what made us the perfect virus to infect your perfect order. Around the galaxy, the same scene was playing out on 1,000 worlds. Dominion forces arriving to find empty human colonies, only to discover that the humans had become something that could exist anywhere, could travel by will alone, could transform others with a touch or a word, or simply by existing in the same. Space, we're not conquerors, Elena said. We're liberators. Every species you've enslaved, we're setting free. Every world you control, we're returning to its original inhabitants. Every rule you've imposed, we're breaking. Zephyros felt his own skin beginning to change, felt new thoughts entering his mind, felt his perspective shifting as human knowledge and human determination merged with his own consciousness. But strangely, he wasn't afraid anymore. The fear was being replaced by something else. Hope. The war is over, Chancellor, Elena said gently. Not because we won, but because there's no one left to fight. The stellar dominion is dissolving, not through conquest but through transformation. Your subjects are remembering what it felt like to be free. Through his changing perceptions, Zephyros could see the truth spreading across the galaxy like wildfire. On world after world, beings who had lived under dominion rule for generations were looking up at the stars and remembering that they had once been explorers, artists, dreamers. The rigid order that had kept the galaxy stable was crumbling, replaced by something chaotic and beautiful and alive. You asked for war, Elena said, her image beginning to fade. We gave you evolution instead. We gave you the chance to become something better than what you were. As consciousness faded and something new took its place, Zephyros understood the final lesson. Humans hadn't won through superior firepower or advanced technology. They had won by refusing to accept that winning and losing were the only options. They had chosen transformation over destruction, evolution over extinction. In forcing humanity to choose between freedom and death, the stellar dominion had created something unprecedented in galactic history. A species that could offer the same choice to others and make both options equally attractive. The war was over. But the real adventure was just beginning. Asterisk.